Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View. Alright, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. It has been one heck of a weekend. Alright, for those of you living under a rock, there was a 5K marathon scheduled to be run in Seaside, New Jersey. They were late getting the 5K started, and the 5K run, I keep wanting to throw in the word marathon. The 5K was to benefit Marines and their families. Well, they were half an hour late because of so many last-minute registrations and an unattended bag at the starting line. It's a good thing they were late. Most military people do not like to be late, but in this case, it probably saved some lives. Because a bomb went off. Had they been on time, runners would have been in the path of that bomb. Now, I watched in horror with the rest of the country, and of course my thought was terrorism, which of course Seaside went, yep, you got it. Well, then later that night, you have the bombing in New York City. And I'm going, wait a minute. Plus, what many of you may not have picked up on, there was also an attack at a mall in Minnesota by a man wielding a knife or a machete or something of that nature. And he was stopped by an off-duty police officer. Now, that police officer is a part-time police officer, but he drew his weapon and saved lives. And he is the hero of that mall incident. I don't have a clear hero as far as why there weren't lives lost in New York City, other than I'd have to credit the ineptitude of the bomber. He placed the bomb inside a dumpster that was likely to contain a large portion of the blast and direct the blast upward away from people on the street. Now, what it also did was propel this dumpster to, I've heard 150 to 200 feet through the streets. So, this is getting interesting, folks. So then, I watched along with the rest of you and listened and went, I was sitting here feeling my country's under attack. And I kept waiting for the phone to ring. And my current husband, who is not Special Forces, to get recalled into work. Not that it had a great chance of happening, but I kept watching and listening for it. I don't think he was even listening for it, but I was. So then, I cheered with the rest of you this morning when who they believe is the sole person responsible for both of these bombs was arrested. Now, I gotta say something about the bombs themselves. And no, I'm not going to give you a how to build a bomb. You want to do something that heinous? That is on you. If you're trying to blow out a tree stump, you can figure it out for yourself. I am not going to give you a bomb recipe. However, he did use readily available things that you can purchase that are often used in reloading firearms and or making what they call explosive targets. If you've ever watched a shooting show or a shooting competition and the target explodes when it's hit, that was the stuff in the bomb in New York City. Now the bomb up in New Jersey had black powder. Black powder is readily available. So don't think it's not. It's out there, folks. It's out there. And it's not that hard to come by. So it's one of those things. The stuff is dangerous. Now, the cop, first of all, the man who called in, the then unknown person sleeping in his doorway, great job. The cop who put one and one together and came up with two, amazing. Awesome work. The rest of the officers who pursued him and eventually brought him down, and he's alive. I heard he was shot in the arm and the leg. They were clearly trying to disable him, not kill him. Then, I've got to thank all the police and emergency responders that have been working like crazy all weekend. You guys are the everyday heroes. People who say there are no heroes left in this country, they just don't know where to look. In my mind, heroes do not have their names written on the back of a sports jersey. Heroes are the men and women who serve, protect, help, and come when called. Everyone else is running the other way. They're running towards the problem. So, they are the real heroes. They are the ones who deserve the accolades. They're the ones who deserve all the credit. And I know there's this whole police controversy about shooting down unarmed people. This guy was shooting at them, so I don't even want to hear it. And as far as this not being terrorism, get over it. It was terrorism, plain and simple. It was terrorism. Point blank. Terrorism. Now, I don't have a whole lot of audio prep tonight because I've been busy chasing articles. Because like the rest of you, I've been hungry for all the news. Although I've got some other stories that are not this, but I am going to cover this one first because it's, well, to use a saying from my least favorite political candidate, it's huge! So this is a story that even though this isn't something I would normally cover, I felt compelled to do so. Now I'm not going to get into what the political candidates were saying. I'm not going to get into all that. I am going to leave that to others. Okay? I'm going to leave that to all the pundits. Alright. The bomb that exploded in Manhattan was made out of something called tannerite. And tannerite typically explodes when it's struck by a bullet from a high-powered rifle, so rangers can put it on targets as a proof a target's been struck. So the brand name oh, one moment. I've got some audio trying to creep in here. Give me just a second and I will kill that. Alright. Now. So, the bomb in Manhattan had tannerite. It is a legal product. It is designed to explode when struck by a bullet, usually from a high-powered rifle. It is defined as a binary explosive, which means it's sold in two inert pieces. It's not explosive until the two parts are mixed. Even when the two separate parts, ammonium nitrate and aluminum powder, are mixed, the compound won't explode unless it's hit by a bullet. Tannerite cannot be set off by a smoldering fuse, an electronic fuse, an electrical current, an open flame, impact with a hammer, or even a low-velocity handgun. It's a very stable product. Tannerite makes it easy for shooters at a range to easily determine whether a shot hit its intended target. So it's mixing, Now, according to the ATF, mixing binary components together constitutes manufacturing explosives. However, persons manufacturing explosives for their own personal non-business use, such as personal target practice, are not required to have a federal explosive license or permit. However, when the binary components are combined, the resulting mixture is an explosive material. And you do have to treat this stuff with respect. So, now the bomb on Saturday morning was black powder. That is another very commonly available thing that is also associated with shooting. Alright. I think I've gone into enough of the who, what, and how. Alright. Just looking through my articles here. I got a stack of them. Don't I always? For those of you who have also been living under a rock, this is UN General Assembly Week. Oh yes, I said UN General Assembly Week. Alright, first we're going to finish up with the bomb suspect Rahami. I found a very interesting article I hadn't heard covered anywhere else. The man who police nabbed and shot on Monday after a day-long dragnet in connection with a series of terror attacks and in and around New York was a bad father who disliked America, hated gays, and took long trips to his homeland of Afghanistan. This is according to the mother of his young daughter. Maria, whose full name is being withheld, said her high school sweetheart, Ahmad Khan Rahami, didn't pay child support and often rallied against American culture. The 26-year-old who spoke after her grandmother called her for a reporter who produced his press credentials and identified himself as at the grandmother's home in Elizabeth, said she had not seen Rahami in 2 years. He would speak often of Western culture and how it was different back home, how there weren't homosexuals in Afghanistan. He seemed standoffish to American culture, but I never thought he would cross the line, she added. Rahami's 28 was identified by authorities on Monday, following a weekend of possibly related bombings in Seaside Park, New Jersey, and Chelsea section of Manhattan. Alright, what many of you may or may not be aware of, there were unexploded bombs in both areas. Oh yeah, there were unexploded bombs in both areas. The one on Saturday morning, I believe there were either 2 or 3 unexploded pipe bombs. They were all supposed to go off at the same time. The one on Saturday night, or early Sunday morning, take your pick. I think it was late Saturday night. It was a pressure cooker. It exploded. There was a second device. And I'm just going to cover this briefly so I can say I did it. It was in a duffel bag. He'd put it down. 2 people walked up to the duffel. The police do not believe they're involved in any way. They're calling them witnesses. They pulled the pressure cooker and inside the plastic trash bag that was hiding in the duffel bag out and took off with the duffel bag. We don't know if what they did disrupted the pressure cooker bomb so it wouldn't go off, or if it wasn't properly wired up. We don't know. At least not at this point. Now, there were 5 men detained in connection with the probe after a traffic stop in Brooklyn who were released. And authorities said they do not believe the bombs were the work of a terror cell. Alright, I'm going to give you a favorite saying of mine. Give me just one moment here. Alright, favorite saying. No man is an island. I don't think Rahami acted alone. I believe he had help. How much help? I don't think it was a lot, because you can't get anybody to keep a secret in this day and age. Let's just be blunt about that. And these bombs were, from what I've heard, amateurish. They weren't the typical quality a professional bomb maker would have used. They were very much haphazardly thrown together. Another interesting note was the explosive material used. The explosive material was not TATP. Mr. Frog is just insisting. I'm going to grab a quick sip of water. Okay, much better. Much better. So, TATP is a manufactured explosive that is very volatile. It is made from common ingredients, but it's very temperamental. It takes it, for lack of a term, a professional bomb maker or an experienced bomb maker to make it and not blow themselves up. But all I can say is that his choice of explosives tells me he probably didn't have hands-on training despite his trips to Afghanistan. Now, the other thing I found interesting, of all 3 terrorist attacks, Daesh, or ISIS, has claimed 1. Yeah, you heard me, they've only claimed 1. And that was the one in the mall. They claimed the guy with the knife who attacked 8 people. Now, maybe this guy was set up to be claimed by ISIS, but when his attacks went so badly, they said, skip it, we didn't sanction this, never mind, we're going to ignore it. It could have been anything. It really could have. Again, do I think we'll ever know? No clue. So, I don't know how much is going to be put out there to John Q. Public. I really don't. All I can tell you is that these bombs are amateurish. Now, I also have to say that, while these bombs aren't the most sophisticated things, sophistication doesn't necessarily mean anything. Not a single thing. So, how sophisticated a bomb is doesn't tell you how strong it is, how potent it is, or how much damage it's going to do. So don't take the fact that this, I'm going to call it an inspired attack, wasn't that sophisticated. In fact, had several blunders in it. As a sign of lack of anything. That bomb can still go off. Alright. Now, I've got an audio clip. Let's see if I can get it queued up for you, because I'm doing this on the fly. This is the one audio clip I have on this topic. I only have 3 audio clips tonight, so you're going to hear a lot of me yabbering. Because, well, I was too busy reading those stories to actually pull it together today. Alright, let's take a listen to this audio. This is about the capture of Romani, and this is from an eyewitness who was listening to a scanner. Or from, I think it was actually from the police chief who was listening to the scanner. And I believe it was shortly afterwards.
About 10:30 this morning, we had a call about a gentleman that was sleeping in the doorway of a local business, a bar. About 10:30 this morning, we had a call about a gentleman that was sleeping in the doorway of a local business, a bar. The call came in from the owner of the bar who was outside the business. Our officers responded to check out this person. At that point, the officer was approaching him and trying to rouse him, and when the gentleman picked up his head, the officer noticed that he had a beard and looked awfully similar to the wanted poster for this terrorist suspect. The officer then told the person to show me your hands. The gentleman had his hand in a valise or something on the side of his body. He then pulled out a handgun and he fired a shot at the officer, striking him in the abdomen in his bulletproof vest.
Alright, so he shot one officer in, thank God that officer was wearing his bulletproof vest. Now, for those of you, I'm guessing most of you out there who've never worn a bulletproof vest, it feels like you've been hit by a baseball bat. I have never experienced this personally before you ask. I have discussed this with people who have. Now, there was also an explosion at a train station as the bomb squad was attempting to disarm it. The FBI was working to disarm one of the 5 devices found in the same bag. It was discovered in a trash can by 2 homeless men around 8:30 Sunday near the Elizabeth train station on New Jersey's Transit East Corridor line. The men reported seeing wires and a pipe coming out of the package. The homeless men were going through the trash can looking for anything of value when they found the bag. The men realized the danger and took the bag to an area away from the train station and alerted police. The mayor said that the 2 homeless men should be considered heroes for their actions. The search warrant was executed Monday morning at 104 Elmora Avenue off Linden Ave at First American Fried Chicken, a restaurant owned by the family of the bombing suspect, Ahmad Khan Rahami. He was taken into custody following a shootout. So, Yeah, this guy was careless. He didn't think a lot. He dropped a bag with multiple explosive devices, with no timers or detonators, I might add, in a trash can and walked away. They did explode when the police were trying to disarm it. Alright, we are past the bottom of the hour, so we are going to take that ever wonderful commercial break, and I will be back with you right afterwards.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that everything is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they say, and if you wanna turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they say, and if you wanna turn your back on the country needing you right now.
Alright, thank you for hanging in there with me over that commercial break. Now, I am going to move on to international news because we aren't the only ones who have had chaos in their lands. There has been, as you know, there's always chaos in the world if you know where to look for it. Although I will admit, my stack today is smaller. Alright. Aid trucks headed for Aleppo were hit by an airstrike. A UN humanitarian aid convoy inside Syria was hit by airstrikes Monday, according to the UN officials, as the Syrian military declared the week-long ceasefire that the US and Russia brokered had failed. With the truce apparently teetering, the U.S. brushed off Damascus's assertions and said it's prepared to extend the agreement, while Russia, after blaming the rebels for violations, suggested it could still be salvaged. A UN official said UN and Red Crescent convoy was delivering assistance for 78,000 people in the town of Uram al-Kubra, west of Aleppo City. Initial estimates that at least 18 of the 31 trucks in the convoy were hit, as well as the Red Crescent warehouse in the area. Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said at least 12 were killed in this attack, mostly truck drivers and Red Crescent workers. The Syrian Civil Defense, the volunteer first responder group, also known as the White Helmets, confirmed that casualty figure. Stephanie Dujarric, spokesperson for the Secretary General, told CBS News, today a UN and Syrian Arab Red Crescent interagency convoy was delivering assistance for 78,000 people in the hard-to-reach town of Uram al-Kubra, Aleppo Governorate, which is west of Aleppo City. Multiple sources have confirmed that the town was shelled this evening. Initial estimates indicate that at least 18 of the 31 trucks in the convoy were hit. The situation continues to evolve. We're unable to verify casualties. Local NGOs in Aleppo are reporting that Omar Bakarat, head of the Syrian Red Crescent, has been killed in the airstrike. Jane England, humanitarian aid coordinator in the office of the UN, told the AP in a text the convoy was bombarded. Eglin added it's egregious. It was hit while offloading at warehouses. The UN humanitarian chief, Stephen O'Brien, called on all parties to the conflict once again to take all necessary measures to protect humanitarian actors, civilians, and civilian infrastructure as required by international humanitarian law. The convoy, part of a routine interagency dispatch operated by the Syrian Red Crescent, was hit in rural western Aleppo province. The White Helmets first responder group posted images of a number of vehicles on fire in the dead of night. A video of the attack showed huge balls of fire in a pitch-black area as ambulance arrived on the scene. A Red Crescent official in Syria confirmed the attack but said no further information was available. Elsewhere, at least 20 civilians were killed in fresh airstrikes on rebel-held Aleppo and surrounding areas, according to the observatory. Russia said government positions in southwestern Aleppo came under attack from militant groups, including a massive barrage of rockets. Alright, they say with the ceasefire in danger of unraveling, guys, it just did. Both Moscow and Washington have indicated a desire to try and salvage the agreement, which brought a brief respite to at least some parts of the war-torn country. Okay, really? They go clobbering an aid convoy and you want to play nice with them? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm sorry. That just doesn't even make sense. Alright. From the start, the truce has been beset with difficulties and mutual accusations of violations. And our planes did accidentally attack the Syrian army. Not sure if I should be putting attack and accidental in air quotes. I'm still working on deciphering that one myself. I do have a bit of audio on this, so let's take a listen.
And in other news, the crisis in Syria is at the top of the agenda later today when the UN General Assembly meets here in New York. A fragile ceasefire was weakened when U.S.-led forces killed Syrian troops this weekend in an errant airstrike. ISIS was the intended target there, and the mistake led to some harsh criticism from both Syria and Russia. But Secretary of State Kerry has fired back, accusing Russia of grandstanding and showboating.
Kerry fired back because, well, Russia hits civilians all the time, including hospitals. Alright, now, I'm sorry, but bombing an aid convoy is low. Alright, in other related news, President Obama held a strategy session with his Iraqi counterpart Monday as the coalition forces begin an effort to take the Islamic State stronghold of Mosul. This is going to be a challenging battle. Mosul is a large city and ISIL has embedded itself deeply in that city. Obama said after meeting with Iraqi Prime Minister al-Abadi in New York, it will be a tough fight. Keep in mind, this is UN General Assembly week. You got leaders from all over the world in New York this week. Abadi said we're going to kick Daesh out of Mosul and deal a huge blow to what Daesh believes in. They must be crushed on the ground, and our heroic fighters are doing that. The northern city of Iraq, once the country's second largest with more than 2 million people, has been occupied by the Islamic State, or Daesh, for more than 2 years, along with the de facto capital in the Syrian city of Raqqa. It's one of 2 strongholds that the U.S. and allied forces plan to pressure into simultaneous assaults, and in hopes that it will cripple terrorist groups' military power in the region. U.S.-led coalition plans to pressure Daesh in both Mosul and Raqqa. Alright, so we may finally actually be taking some serious action. Now, have you ever heard the term take out the trash? It usually happens on Friday, because most people by Friday afternoon or evening aren't paying attention to the news. And this story caught me by surprise. I'm not happy to see it. It did come out today. And I don't like it. Saudi Arabia appears to be using U.S.-supplied white phosphorus munitions in its war in Yemen. This is based on images and videos posted to social media, raising concerns among human rights groups that the highly incendiary material could be used against civilians. Under U.S. regulations, white phosphorus sold to other countries is to be used only for signaling to other troops creating smoke screens. When the munition explodes, it releases white phosphorus that automatically ignites in the air and creates a thick white smoke. When used against soldiers or civilians, it can maim and kill by burning to the bone. It's unclear exactly how the Saudis are using the munitions, but the government has already received widespread condemnation for its indiscriminate bombing in civilian areas since its campaign against rebel forces in Yemen began in 2015. U.S. officials confirmed that the American government supplied Saudis with white phosphorus in the past, but declined to say how much had been transferred or when. After reviewing a social media image taken from the battlefield that showed a white phosphorus mortar shell, U.S. officials said it appeared to be American in origin, but could not trace it to a particular sale because some of the markings were obscured. The U.S. expects any recipient of U.S. military aid to use those items in accordance with international law and under the terms and conditions of the U.S. transfer or sale. And this is according to a U.S. State Department official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Alright, the official said the department was looking into reports of Saudi forces improperly using U.S.-supplied white phosphorus. If a country is determined to have used U.S.-provided weapons for unauthorized purposes, the U.S. will, quote-unquote, take appropriate corrective action. I don't know what appropriate corrective action would be for using white phosphorus on a person. This week, lawmakers on Capitol Hill have moved to delay a $1 billion arms deal that would replace some of Saudi Arabia's U.S.-supplied tanks that have been damaged in the conflict. Since coming to office in 2009, the Obama administration has facilitated more than $15 billion in 42 different arms sales to Saudi Arabia, more than any other U.S. administration, according to a report in the Security Assistance Monitor. Batches of equipment are likely to be delivered for years to come. International humanitarian law does not ban the use of white phosphorus outright, but there is a strict requirement that it be used only in areas clearly separate from civilians. Even using against enemy combatants has raised concerns, given that the munitions can cause particularly horrific injuries. Alright. My oh my, where does the time fly? And of course the U.S. is trying to downplay this. Now, for those of you who remember my show, Who Are the Kurds, I've got a little related story. In the shadow of the new escalation of the war in Syria, three new challenges occurred, which would have an undeniable impact on the Middle East region. Firstly, the enlargement of Russian military intervention in Syria. Second, coalition forces have achieved the liberation of the number of towns in Syria from the so-called Euphrates military operation. From the so-called Islamic State. Finally, the third, the Turkish army has been involved in the conflict against the Islamic State. The target of Euphrates military operation is to liberate the strategic points seized by the Islamic State 2 years ago. According to the Turkish authorities, the mission has been successfully accomplished by the liberation of Azaz city. Nevertheless, Turkey has suffered its first casualty in Operation Euphrates Shield, after an attack by Kurdish fighters left 1 soldier dead and 3 injured. Turkish officials have openly stated that their goal is much about ensuring Kurdish forces do not expand their territory. Alright, for those of you with your scorecards, keep in mind, we like Turkey. We're friends with Turkey. We use a Turkish airbase. This is all publicly available information, so before anybody jumps me for putting out troop locations, this ain't news. A lot of people know this. You can find this on Google. You can find it all over the place, so don't yell at me on this one. Alright. Now, Turkey says Assad must go. Turkey and Russia are frenemies. Russia says Assad must stay. We say Assad must go. And then you've got India, China, Pakistan, all these other countries going, give me a piece out of that. Alright. Got a couple more articles here. Where's the one I want to cover about North Korea? And my desk is a mess. No, that's not it. That's not it. Where is it? I know I printed it. seen it since I printed it even. Oh, good grief. Yes, it's North Korea again. But no, this one isn't a missile launch. I just thought this one was interesting. Just plain interesting. Oh, give me one more second. If I don't find it in just a second, I will see if I can pull it up online. Oh, I think I just spotted it. Alright. It's going to take me a second to grab hold of it, and then we will proceed. It is about the stereotypes of Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And what a professional evaluation of it leads this person to believe. So give me 1 second. Got to reach down and grab it. Of course it fell to the floor. Couldn't stay neatly on my desk now, could it? That would have meant I would have known where it was. And that's not even it. All that work and it's not even the right article. Alright, let me see if I can pull it back up. Because I found this article very fascinating. I'm just going through the ones I do have printed. That's Saudi and the phosphorus, and I know I'm running out of time quickly. Checking to make sure it didn't get stapled in with another one. Hang on. Yes, I know. I need to get better organized. Alright, let me re-find it real quick. Won't take me but a second. Because I actually have a clue on this one. I actually kind of remember where this one's located and what I used to search for it. I swear I printed it, though. It probably snuck off the other side of my desk. But this one was really fascinating, at least to me. Okay, this is an AP analysis questioning the stereotypes of about North Korea. North Korea is an economic basket case that incomprehensibly pours resources into nuclear weapons and cares only about enriching a tiny circle of elites when it can't even feed its own people. It's an impossible state, as one former U.S. diplomat put it, bound to collapse under the weight of its own failed policies if just given a push. Common sense? Right? We've heard all those descriptions thrown around in the media, from the White House, from the UN, the Security Council. But with North Korea facing yet more sanctions and punitive measures over its latest nuclear test, now might be a good time to re-examine those assumptions. Kim Jong-un is crazy, erratic, and incompetent. Ridicule is a comforting way of letting off steam, but regardless of how morally reprehensible, criminal, or even evil we may perceive an adversary to be, underestimation is dangerous. There's little evidence Kim is crazy, erratic, or incompetent. He assumed power after the death of his father, Kim Jong-il, with very little preparation and probably while still in his late 20s. Yet there are no clear indications he or a circle of power-holding cadres acting in his name is not solidly in power. Commentators note here that's due in large part to a number of purges. In a totalitarian dictatorship, balancing rival interest groups and keeping popular unrest at bay in itself is no small feat. It is to be expected that Kim would face potential challenges, but he appears to be navigating the balance of power quite deftly and ruthlessly if necessary. The biggest known challenge to his power came early, and he dealt with it by executing his powerful uncle and former mentor, and purging his followers. That apparently was that. Policy-wise, Kim's regime has been consistent. Yeah, gotta give him credit, they are consistent. His stated goals have been to develop the country's nuclear weapons arsenal while improving its standard of living. Alright, the stereotype, going nuclear is irrational. In terms of lost trade opportunities, sanctions, and diplomatic isolation, North Korea's pursuit of a viable nuclear arsenal is a costly endeavor. It also uses resources that could be put towards badly needed infrastructure improvements. The military calculus is different, however. North Korea is surrounded by nuclear powers, two of them, Russia and China. Russia and China. They are to some degree friendly, but the trump card is held by the United States, and by extension Japan and South Korea, which are under the United States nuclear umbrella. Washington can bomb North Korea into oblivion at will, as it nearly did with conventional weapons during the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. North Korea has long been able to keep South Korea at bay with its considerable artillery power near the demilitarized zone, but hitting the U.S. mainland has always been out of its reach. A viable nuclear deterrent, as North Korea calls it, would change that. Going to the table as a nuclear power would radically boost the North's bargaining position, should serious talks ever resume. This might seem like paranoia. The U.S. has no intention of invading North Korea, and has said so for decades. But every year, U.S. troops team up with South Korean counterparts to conduct war games that, while always termed defensive in nature, have recently begun to include training for precision strikes, or more colorfully, decapitation strikes on Kim Jong-un, along with the scenarios for invading or destroying the capital. To North Korea, this is a very real threat. Threats, real or perceived, are also useful political tools. Few things rally a nation behind its leaders better than the fear of an attack, especially if the top threat appears to be coming from the world's largest and strongest, or from the world's strongest military. North Korea's economy is a basket case. It faces severe international sanctions. It's extremely wary of even the most basic forms of market capitalism, and has a financial system that is at best skeletal. Still, North Korea's economy is growing, and has been for years. While working with admittedly flawed and incomplete data, I largely agree things appear to have been getting marginally better. They estimate annual GNP growth at 1 to 3%. Sanctions have certainly hurt, but they've not been crippling. So, North Korea remains among the world's least developed economies. Stunting due to malnutrition, abject poverty, and lack of economic options surely persist, but no more so than in many other poorer nations. Alright, and on that note, I am just a hair over my time, and you know what's coming? Yeah. I'm out of here!